So, welcome to this YouTube review with Mr. Jeff Hayward of the Burnley match at the weekend. Jeff, how are you?
Just totally deflated after yesterday. People say it's the hope that kills you, and that's what it felt like yesterday.
Yeah, so Cherries succumbed to a 3-0 loss at Burnley. Not many happy fans. We've been hearing them, we've been reading the reaction, and I mean, it's one of those kind of things where on earth do we begin to start to detangle this? Should we do it in chronological order and maybe talk about the team news at 2 o'clock when it came out?
Yeah, I think even before that, I think the context of us playing Burnley has its own narrative these days, and that narrative is they are making us pay for Eddie coming back every time. Every time there seems to be a sickening result, and very often we don't deserve what comes out of it. I think they've got an attitude that Dyche winds them up so that they decide they're going to quite enjoy kicking us. So we know what we're in for. If you could paint a picture of what the worst possible way for us to play Burnley would be, it would be number one, bloody wind. Sorry, swearing.
Yeah, don't worry.
Number two, we'd be fighting for our lives. They'd be on the back of 4 fantastic results and playing with bags of confidence. And number three, we'd go into that game without our 2 best players.
Yeah, it's almost like there's an agenda against us. What does he say to wind them up in the changing room? You don't know, but they always seem to perform against us, whether it's home or away. And yeah, Jefferson Lerma out, Nathan Ake out. I heard that Nathan Ake had some kind of head injury. There were rumours circulating on Twitter in the week that he was out for a long time, but they proved to not be the case. But he was out in this case. And also Jefferson Lerma as well. And I'm not overly sure what the issue was with him. Any idea?
Bad back from what I heard. Hopefully it's not too serious. I sort of suspect maybe a little bit of planning ahead. Maybe Eddie thinks that we've got a better chance of getting a result against Chelsea. Would rather have him for that game than he would for Burnley away.
Is he a player that they want to maybe protect because of the way that Burnley are notoriously physical, perhaps, and they don't want him to get embroiled in any, bad challenges? But also, you know what they're like. They're aggressive, and they would go at him and probably try to get him booked.
Possibly, I felt it was a side that. What I said before about the worst conditions to play Burnley, that's a side that's going to lose to Burnley. That's what I thought when I saw it. And actually, the other 2 interesting decisions were Rico dropped for Adam Smith to switch over to the left and bringing Stacey back. Again, probably a bit more of a physical presence as a defence. And then Josh King coming in for Ryan Fraser. Again, a bit more of a physical presence. I think we've missed Josh's directness and his physical presence, so that I think was a positive. But ultimately, the back 4 was our weakness in that game, and it showed because that's how they got ahead basically.
Yeah, that's right. It looked like a bit of a championship midfield when you sort of look at it. I know that Philip Billing was in there as well, but to have Sermon and Gosling in there, it did hark back to those sort of League Cup matches or the championship era, which ironically, Dan Gosling didn't feature much in, same as Junior Stanislas. They sort of came into their own when we got into the Premier League. But it did worry me somewhat, but having Josh King back, I thought was a bit of a coup for us starting. I thought he could be the aggressor, and the interviews in the week suggested that he was really up for taking the fight to Burnley. And unfortunately, though, it didn't go our way, but it wasn't completely our fault. But it sort of ebbed and flowed in the early stages, didn't it? And there were moments where Burnley sort of carved us open, but we did the same with them too.
Yeah, the best chances in that first half, well, certainly early on, came to us. Callum had a really good effort, which either side of Pope would have been a goal. He connects really well, left-footed volleys from about 7 or 8 yards, and Pope makes a good save. That sort of set the style. I felt we played really well. We were passing the ball really well. I think we surprised them a bit because we went for them very reminiscent of the Sheffield United opening 25, actually, where the fullbacks got forward really well. We're overloading the flanks. We're getting in behind them, pulling the ball back, getting shots on goal. And you felt it's either going to be one of those games where we're never going to score and we miss our best chances and they go at the other end and beat us, or we're going to get a goal here and try and hang on. I mean, which again was Sheffield United in microcosm. So, yeah, I mean, when we went ahead, albeit for a few seconds, you know, it felt like that had been coming. We deserved it, albeit Vidra on the break. I mean, playing Cook and Francis at centre half.
Is that where he cut in onto his right foot and managed to get the shot away? And, you know, thankfully Ramsdale was stood up to it. But I mean, that was scary when he came in on his right.
It was scary, and I think his pace unsettled us. It showed what we have with Ake. We have somebody who can cover back and respond to that sort of attack. But with Francis and Cook, they're too similar. You know, one or the other, but not both together. I know Francis has played well recently, but I think that's because as a combination, he works well with Ake. Francis and Cook together, I mean, it always gave them a chance. One thing, actually, Sam, you were there, so perhaps you could just describe how full on that wind was. What an advantage was it for us playing in that first half?
I mean, to tell you how bad it was, just next to Turf Moor is Burnley Cricket Club, where you can go for pre-match drinks. It's a very friendly atmosphere with fans of both sides. There's not overly a lot of people in there, but it's very exposed to the elements. And in the bar, there's actually a sort of fire escape that goes out onto the balcony, and people going out there for cigarettes and vaping, etc. And the door was slamming shut, and every time the door was opened, everyone could feel that, you know, gust of wind. And there was a guy who'd just been out for a cigarette, and he walked back in with his drink, and just as he was about to close the door behind him, it closed on him, so much so he dropped his drink and it went everywhere onto the quite horrendous carpet within the cricket club. But it was really strong. Apparently it wasn't as bad as Sheffield United last week, but it did have its effect. And I just wonder once again whether the sermon choice is reason for that as well. He, of course, doesn't play these lofted balls. It's alone sort of along the deck. You just wonder whether, because Lewis Cook, he seems to be out of favour. I'm sure we'll come on to him. But yeah, I mean, the conditions weren't so bad, I've got to say. And certainly watching the game from where I was, it didn't overly look as though it was affecting any of the team's sort of performances in a negative way. And indeed, as you said earlier, it was us that took the lead, and I think that came actually from Billing running through the middle of the park, didn't it? And he ended up getting a shot deflected wide, which led to the corner. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, he could have played King or Callum through, but chose to have a go instead, and not a bad choice, I don't think. Bearing in mind the strength of the wind, could have gone anywhere. So deflected, goes off for a corner. The ball gets swung in. Francis sort of flicks it, and out of nowhere, it strikes the top of Billing's shoulder. Yeah. I'm pointing to where it hits. That directs it across goal, and Josh King sticks it in.
Yeah.
1-0. When I'm watching it, there's never any thought that could be a VAR referral.
No. And you know what's strange? When it was called, I mean, it was a funny old atmosphere there, because when it went in, I felt really muted with the celebration. I'm not entirely sure why. And I've uploaded a video to YouTube with my vlog of the day. So you're welcome to have a look at that. Everyone on youtube.com/AFCB podcast. And it's the first video there. And it was funny, you just thought that something was coming, but I actually thought it wasn't the actual flick on from Billing. It was maybe the way that Josh King sort of took it down, but he didn't. So there were a lot of questions being asked by the AFC Bournemouth fans, not least because there wasn't a single claim from any of the Burnley players, the management, the fans. The only person who actually believed that there was something wrong was someone that sat miles away at Stockley Park. No one inside the stadium ever thought it was it would be ruled out. And then when it was, I mean, absolute joke. And obviously we aren't informed. I can't remember if there were replays or not. I don't think there were on the big screen. But when you see the replays on your phone and stuff, you're thinking, how on earth is that handball? Firstly, it's not clear and obvious is the phrase, isn't it? It was never clear and obvious, and it came off the top of his shoulder the exact same way that Rodriguez scored against us in their 1-0 win earlier this season.
In fact, Rodriguez is worse. Rodriguez is about there. I'm pointing just sort of above the armpit, which is a popular consideration for VAR. And Billing, it comes off the top of his shoulder. Nowhere in the laws of the game is the shoulder mentioned as being part of the body that cannot be struck for it to be a handball. It's either the hand or the arm. It was neither the hand nor was it the arm. That goal should stand. Only Mr. Kavanagh in Stockley Park, who's watching that, is able to conclude from all of the evidence that is a goal that deserves to be disallowed. It was ridiculous.
It was, and that was, the first of what seemed like a multitude of mental setbacks we had. But to Bournemouth's credit, we carried on. Harry Wilson had a chance where he had a header that was saved, great save, and we put the pressure on. And I honestly thought that we were going to go up and, just same as Southampton, we got a goal chalked off. We went and scored, another. I thought it was going to be something like that, but it wasn't. And credit to their keeper as well, who I thought, had a great game and seemed to pull saves out of the bag whenever he was asked.
We could have had 4 in that first half. There was a chance that Stacey had at the back post as well. I think actually Harry Wilson should have done better. Could have had that whole goal to aim at, and he hits it straight at the keeper. Didn't he do something similar against Sheffield United? I think he had a free header there and messed it up as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So obviously got to work on your heading, Harry. Stacey at the back post again. Though the fullback getting forward like that, we were
good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good to see, and I do think we could get sort of weighed down by everything yesterday and think and I've seen a number of fans are getting quite depressed, thinking relegation, it's terrible. Here we were playing away from home with a weakened team against a team that's off the back of 4 straight victories, playing some really decent football, Burnley, in all of that, and we were beating them. And we should have been 2-0, 3-0 up easily first half.
Let's also bear in mind that 3 of the players, Sermon, Gosling and Francis, have been around for donkey's years. So, no way is that our strongest side that we've got out there. And there are players still to come back. But obviously we can't let VAR, we can't brush it under the carpet. And I'm always very wary of using, VAR incidents as an excuse to deflect any, attention away from poor performances from the players. But in the first half, at least, I actually thought that we were such a credit, and we deserved to go in a goal ahead. And 0-0 felt like a real sort of false scoreline because they were attacking very seldomly. Whenever they did, Ramsdale stood up to the task, and Francis, he got turned inside out a couple of times, but he was putting his body on the line and blocking. And I thought, as a unit, we were actually working fairly well.
Yeah, and compare the performance to those around Christmas time where, we were destroyed by West Ham and didn't even muster a shot on goal pretty much until the 90th minute, as far as I remember. So, here we are creating chances. We're playing decent football. That is back to what we're good at. And I think that should give the players a bit of confidence that the 2 victories we got, Brighton and Villa, we've built on that. We can play. We played well in the first half against Sheffield United, albeit again unluckily to an extent beaten there. So we have got positives to build on. The problem is that we're not scoring when we're creating these amazingly clear-cut chances. Now, that is something, okay, well, you kind of want to be creating the chances in the first place. So we're getting better. We're playing better. We're certainly not playing as bad as West Ham or Villa. Villa was shocking again yesterday. I think West Ham are in a really poor run as well. So there are teams worse than us. We've just got to get the run of the ball. And also just, I think, have that strength that Ake and Lerma bring back into the team. And we missed that yesterday, certainly at the start of the second half when they did score.
Yeah, so Harry Wilson was in the thick of the action later on in the second half, but also just that one other chance that we had in the first half, just that I forgot about, was where he sort of flicked it from behind him and it fell to Wilson, who chested and turned. And that was one of the first of many good saves, from Pope, who I thought was astounding. But yeah, as you say, in the second half, Vidra, I'll make no bones about the goal. It was a valid goal, and very well executed, very clinical. They needed it at that point in time as well. And talk us through it. What went wrong?
Well, I think Cook and Francis, the communication wasn't there. I think Francis had stepped up thinking that they were going to play Vidra offside. Cook isn't in that line, so the ball over the top catches Freno out. And then he compounds the error by going to ground way too easily, and Vidra steps inside him in the box. And Ramsdale goes down at his feet trying to block the shot, and in fact, Vidra is quick enough and good enough just to lift it over him. Yeah, if he stays on his feet, maybe he blocks it. I mean, it was one of those, you got to take your hat off to the attacker and say, finished it well, but we were part of our own downfall, I thought.
Yeah, and at that point in time, before that, Eddie Howe, the Bournemouth fans were singing "Eddie Had a Dream." He went to Burnley, then he came back, and then Burnley fans were saying "Eddie Howe, thank F he went back," much to the joy of all the Clarets fans at Turf Moor. 1-0 then, but we got back into it, albeit there was an incident between the Harry Wilson goal and that Adam Smith handball, I don't know how to detangle this, but yeah, there was an incident. Bournemouth cleared. It was going out. It looked like it was going out. Adam Smith cleared it with his arm, shoulder, whatever. But then we did really well. Counter-attack, superb. I think it was a real direct ball from Andrew Sermon that found Callum Wilson, who managed to turn, beat one of his markers. And it reminded me of the Brighton game, the Brighton 5-0 that you remember very well. And I think at that point there was Josh King running through on goal, and to his left was Stanislas and to his right was Solanke, and Callum played in Harry Wilson, who just managed to get a left foot on it and poke it home. And at that point you're thinking, right, we're level and we're going to go on to win this. But alas, that dreaded VAR once again. And honestly, it's very difficult not to feel like we're being got at. John Moss one week and then this the next week. It is scary.
Yeah, again, the ball comes across. I think maybe the wind had a bit of a part to play, because it sort of held up a bit on Adam Smith, hits him more sort of top of the shoulder, top of the shoulder again, armpit sort of area. Now, Mike Dean has a clear look at that, decides to play on. He is not obscured in any way by any of the players or the play. He can see exactly what's happening. He waves play on, and brilliant break, brilliant goal, brilliant finish. So, like I was going crazy. And then to have it called back, I can't understand how that is clear and obvious. It's not clear and obvious. And I tell you what, the only reason that got pulled back was because we scored. If that goal that Harry Wilson hits doesn't go in, then, the ref will say play on. They won't even bother. They won't even bother. But because we scored, it's like the rules of VAR. Number one, you've got to stop goals being scored any way you possibly can, because we're the referees. And number two, let's reinvent the rules so that actually, we're making it up as we go along. And three, I think it does feel like there's a conspiracy against us, because again, you watch Trent Alexander-Arnold against Manchester City in the autumn, clear handball, they break, score, goal stands. That is far worse than Adam Smith's yesterday.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, if we had the VAR decision go for us with Josh King's goal and that got given, I wouldn't be overly upset, because I think, there were claims from the Burnley fans, the Burnley players, that was handball. But Mike Dean felt, he had such perfect vision of that. Now, I thought the whole point of VAR is so that the referee is not undermined. So someone 100 yards away, like a couple of 100 miles away, wherever, is, deciding this and, putting a word in his ear and saying something that he didn't think the first time. Now, it's worse on the first incident. But on the second, I can understand sort of why it was given. Now, there was an incident with Liverpool and Manchester City where this happened, where Man City looked like they should have had a penalty, and then Liverpool went up the other end and scored, and it could have been pulled back, but it didn't. Liverpool were given the goal. You just start to wonder whether that kind of same decision would happen if it was a Liverpool that, Harry Wilson had been scoring for his parent club, Liverpool, rather than Bournemouth. It's hard not to go down the conspiracy theory, but we're not going to. But VAR needs a massive looking at, doesn't it? Because the inconsistency there is absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, Jay Rodriguez, as you say, like in other matches, people are posting screenshots where there are incidents that have been given, not been given. It's an absolute state, and it makes a farce of VAR, something that was supposed to be clearing up these decisions at the end of the season. So you can look back and think, well, you know what, that was fair because every decision was right. But it's become a talking point by itself now. Which is not what the Premier League ever wanted, which shows the implementation of it is completely wrong.
It's all over the place. Simon Francis, in a post-match interview, says that the referees are coming down to the club in a couple of weeks' time to talk to them about how they can improve VAR. Well, I'll tell you what, that's going to be a fun meeting. That will be a really fun meeting because, honestly, you'd think... And I was looking at a league table posted, I think, last week that says that actually... we're in a +2 situation with VAR. I mean, this is obviously before yesterday, which I think would take us. I think we were 3 goals down as a result of VAR yesterday. Yeah. So, we're -1. But some clubs have had it worse than us, and honestly, it feels really bad because that was such an important game yesterday. Yeah. We get 3 points there. That transforms our run-in. Now it makes it harder. It's not impossible. I think we can still get out of the situation we're in. I think we're playing all right. We're not playing like a championship side. We're playing much better than that now. We played better than Burnley in large patches yesterday. We played better than Sheffield United in large patches last week. So we're doing okay on the footballing side. We need a bit of luck, and we need the officials to stop interfering and messing up the game.
Yeah, agree. I don't know the best way to implement VAR firstly, the timing thing is a nightmare because people at home are being informed better than those inside the stadium. And also, once a decision's been made, there's no accountability afterwards. The PGMOL don't come out and explain anything. It's like there's a smoke screen involved. And I think one of the best ways to maybe shake VAR up is almost, boxing has got its faults with regards to its judges, but I almost think you need 3 independent referees watching each match and having some, 2 buttons in front of them, give the penalty or don't give the penalty or, whatever decisions it is. They're not, together. They make their choices on their own. And then, obviously Mike Dean, he let the goal stand, Josh King's goal stand. Now, if it needs to go to, it should go to VAR if there is one voice that thinks it should be checked out, yeah. But it should just be a majority decision of those 3. And, maybe it could work that if it's not a clear majority, including the referee on the pitch, that's when he should be going to his screen and checking things out. But if there's a clear, majority, it should just go with that straight away. And they should almost have a 25-second limit or something. And they've just got to make their decision based on the immediate footage. Then at least it's not one person that's accountable because you don't know what these referees are thinking. There is no way on earth. Gary Lineker's been saying it. Every journalist's been saying it. It was the shoulder. Sean Dyche said it was the shoulder. Yet he thinks it's still handball. He needs to maybe revisit his GCSE biology textbooks because the shoulder, as far as I'm concerned, that is no way handball. But it is what it is. VAR needs shaking up massively. And as a result of it, 2-0 down. And at that point, Jeff, Bournemouth players just look like they lost confidence in themselves. But not only that, the officiating. And Burnley just, they looked like a team that had confidence coursing through their veins. And to be fair, based on the last 20 minutes of the match or whatever it is, that, yeah, perhaps they did maybe deserve the win. But the position that we were in at that point was basically determined by bad officiating, wasn't it?
Yeah. One other thing I'd add, I do think the referee on the pitch needs to have more of a role. He should be able to go and consult that pitch side monitor much more frequently than he does. And Kavanagh was the VAR-REL for the Monday night fiasco that was Manchester United against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Anyone who's seen that game will realise, the guy is incompetent and doesn't ought to be. Sorry, getting a bit carried away.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't be allowed near a football pitch because he doesn't know the rules and he's not qualified to officiate. And why they didn't remove him after Monday night is beyond me. He's incompetent. Let's get these incompetent officials, because even if you're in 3 of them and doing majority verdicts, Sam, I'm telling you, 2 of them could well be incompetent refs who don't know the game either, So I'm not sure we'd be in necessarily a better place. However, the psychological impact of going from 1-1 to 2-0 down.
Oh, just sapped it out of them, didn't it?
Oh, you can understand it. I don't blame the players. I think they were then kind of shot to pieces, really. They tried to get it back a little bit. He made some substitutions, which, arguably you're not taking off players who are playing badly for players who are likely to make a big difference. So we just opened up more space for them.
Yeah. Bournemouth players are going through, enough sort of emotional turmoil as it is with regards to this kind of weekly cycle of bad results. So to have that happen, not good. And then Burnley added a third, and it was a great strike in the end from McNeil from distance. But there were people starting then to make individual errors. It was Billing that was culpable for a couple of errors, late on. But like you say, the substitutions that we had. Fraser coming on, Solanke as well for Gosling and Harry Wilson respectively, Stanislas for King. Oh, it just had the feeling after sort of 70 minutes, you just sort of knew the writing was on the wall, really. And
just wanted the game to be over. I'm sure you felt that in the stadium too. That it was one of those days. And sometimes you do get games which are like that. It doesn't matter what you do. It's not your day. Let's just pack up, go home, start again next week.
This is the worst analogy in the world, Jeff, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't watch X Factor anymore because it's, bloody awful TV, I've got to say. But I used to get taken away by the buzz. I can't say I ever bought a Steve Brookstein album or whatever, but X Factor have got this kind of... I don't know. It may have changed the way they do it, but basically they give the public the vote, right, to vote off who they don't like, and then it comes to the bottom 2. But at that point, it's decided by the judges, who are employees of the program. So really, the public don't really have a say, because the judges can basically manipulate who they want to be in the final based on the fact that they are the ones ultimately making the decision. And with VAR, it almost feels like this whole it's like lip service, like we've got VAR to bring these bad decisions and make sure that they're correct, and fans are going to benefit and the right decisions are going to be made, but ultimately they're not being made, and it's like individuals like Kavanagh who are actually determining the fate. Possibly it could be terminal for the club in terms of having Premier League status, and it almost feels like that, like VAR is some kind of lip service mechanism, but perversely it's actually gone completely the opposite way, and there's more focus on VAR than the actual football itself. And the Premier League, they have to do something about it, and that's all we're talking about now. And there were players that had poor games towards the end, but do we let them off the hook? Because this is a massive issue. Someone on my WhatsApp was saying, could we be going to court with all this kind of stuff? I think we'd probably become a bit of a laughing stock if that was the case. I'm sure that Eddie Howe would love to do that, but I think he's also acutely aware that it would make us look salty and also a bit of a laughing stock. But it would only work if we were in a safe position in the Premier League, and no one can really call it sour grapes if that was the case. But you start to think, is it conspiracy? And an absolute shocking day all round.
Yeah, we could easily feel that it is a conspiracy. We know that there are people that we've wound up, John Moss, Dan Gosling. That to say that's the sort of break in the code of silence that players have what he said, and it's obviously hacked off John Moss. So I thought, if that's true what he said, that he deserves to mention that, because that's out of order what the referee was saying to him.
But do
don't
you think
care
that's maybe stoked
who
the
you are.
fire somewhat?
I think maybe it has. I think maybe referees are thinking that we are this tin pot club that doesn't deserve to be in the division, and that there's a sort of movement against us. But honestly, it's easy to get into that mindset after games like yesterday. And certainly we haven't helped ourselves this season. Yeah, we've had a lot of injuries, but we played some pretty rubbish stuff as well at times, and not enough good stuff. So I think we should look at ourselves first, right? We've got big games coming up. We've got a home match against Chelsea that kicks it off. We are playing better football. We've got players coming back from injury to strengthen the squad, which I think is helpful. We need to use this, as Eddie says, build that siege mentality and prove to everybody that, we're a club built on great escapes. This is going to be the greatest one, because we're not only playing against the other clubs who don't think we've got a right to be in the league, we're fighting against the referees who don't think we've got a right to be in the league. We're fighting against the gods of football who are putting everything against us, it feels like, this season. So it's time for everyone to stick together. Let's get behind the boys and let's give it some on Saturday.
Yeah, we certainly need to. We'll conclude with some 5-word match reports because, we had a number that were submitted, and if any of these are of note, feel free to stick your hand up and we'll mention it. Mr. Tiggs, it doesn't seem fair. Neil Dawson, technology doesn't always improve life. Adi Mansbridge, a clear and obvious clusterfuck. I'll say it now. Kirk Tovey, Prem/VAR can get lost. What else have we got? Steve Hensman, refs get their own back. Nobby Dog, we are not good enough. James Clark, played well, but shoulder is handball. What an absolute ludicrous VAR, said Andy Bowman. I mean, it's all VAR related. Patrick Devitt says something, where are we without Ramsdale? And this is maybe worthy of note because Ramsdale, for all the attention that VAR had, he prevented the scoreline from being, it could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been. He played well, and the number of times where Vidra was straight through, almost 1-on-1. What was it, 3, maybe 4 times? And it was only one of those that Vidra came out on top. Ramsdale is great. The centre half pairing, I don't want to see that again. Nathan, you got to be back, and either Cook or Francis, not the two of them together. That is a championship centre half pairing. I'm sorry, but ain't gonna keep us in the Premier League. I thought Stacey did decently, actually, first game for a while.
I thought he did too, yeah.
I thought Adam Smith was all right, again, good going forwards. Midfield-wise, you're right, it was a bit championship, but...
Sermon didn't look overly out of place, I've got to say. There weren't, there weren't any clear and obvious errors that I remember him making, but obviously, it's very difficult when your mind is just shrouded by this kind of mist of conspiracy and farcical kind of thoughts. It's very difficult to analyse with a clear head. I've not seen extended highlights. I've just watched small packages, so I will torture myself and go over it and try to form some opinion ahead of the Chelsea preview. But yeah, there's more people saying, would Championship be that bad? We'll be discussing relegation very shortly, Jeff. You've got to be joking, said Norseman. Freddie Travers can't wait for Millwall away. There's VAR as a fraud again, said Katie. VAR can F right off, properly shafted by VAR. Premier League want us out. I could go on. Jeff, it's not a great time to be a Bournemouth fan at the moment.
No, stick together though. Fight the good fight. We're still in this, and it's close at the bottom still. No team is on a fantastic run. Newcastle dropping like a stone. We still got to play them. Still got to play Palace at home. And we still got to play Saints at home. So you'd look at those 3 fixtures and think, you know what? Those are all 3 winnable if we play well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Jeff, thanks very much for being on this YouTube video review of the last game. I can see visibly you are as distraught as I am. But yeah, we're going to still be optimistic. At some point, there will be a tipping point and we will be all doom and gloom. That was mainly about the technology rather than the team performance. So I've got to say that, team performance wise, there's a bit to look forward to. But it's Chelsea next. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments, whether it's VAR or player related. You can give your player ratings or whatever you choose to say. Just pop them down there and we'll see you in the next video. Up the Cherries.